Moby, we are in New York. You were born in New York, right?
Yeah.
So at heart, do you consider yourself a New Yorker?
That's such a good question, and it's sort of a challenge because I live in LA now. So when I come back here, there's almost that cognitive dissonance of like, okay, I was born here, I lived here for decades. I bottomed out as an alcoholic here. Wow. I got sober here. So like it was almost like every inch of Manhattan and Brooklyn has some sort of historical weird significance for me. But now I live in LA, so I almost feel like such a middle-aged cliche. Like you bottom out as an alcoholic in New York, you get sober in New York, and then you move to LA and like go hiking in the sunshine.
And so you live this Zen vegan lifestyle in Los Angeles.
I try. I mean, it's hard to be too Zen when you're like battling traffic and what have you. But like, I mean, yeah, just in terms of quality of life, like waking up in LA, walking across the street, going hiking, especially in the middle of winter, is really nice.
Do you have a mantra that gets you through the stress of the day?
Sort of. My mantra-ish is that everybody's suffering. You know, like I have to remind myself, like when you're in traffic, no one likes it. You know, so I can't take it too personally. Like you're sitting in traffic, and also remembering, like most people honestly are suffering more than I am. You know, like people who are in traffic every day, going from a house they don't like to a job they don't like. So that's why, like when I get in traffic, I let everybody cut in front of me.
You do?
Yeah, because I'm like, you know what? They're in more of a hurry than I am.
You really aren't a New Yorker anymore. Oh my God, letting people go in front of you in traffic?
Yeah. I try.
You're like the Mother Teresa of the highway. That's crazy.
That's going to be my new, like.
The Mother Teresa of the highway. Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of work, by the way, you've been such an important DJ on the scene for so many years. How would you look at the evolution of the concept of the DJ in pop culture? It's
weird, because I grew up playing in punk rock bands, and then I started DJing because I was hanging out in nightclubs and I needed a job. And a friend of mine who owned a nightclub in Port Chester, New York, took pity on me and gave me a job as a DJ. Wow. And I got paid $20 a night for 6 hours of work.
Wow.
So DJing, like in the 80s, even into the 90s, really wasn't very glamorous. And now, I mean, I was in Ibiza a couple of years ago, and as we were landing, we flew over where all the DJs keep their private planes. So like,
that's crazy.
And
the DJs basically have their own little airport.
There are parking lots for the DJs to keep their private planes. Like I don't DJ that much anymore because I like staying home.
Right.
But the DJs who are out there all the time, like they make $10 million a year. They make $20 million a year.
That's
like
crazy.
it's nuts. And I mean, more power to them, I guess. Except it's also, as you know, like the lifestyle and the consequences of the lifestyle, like Avicii, like DJ AM, like it can really destroy people.
How do you analyze that evolution?
I analyze the evolution, not to be too esoteric, but almost like it's something in our DNA that as a species, we want to go out at night and dance and be around other people and stay up late. You know, it was happening 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and it's happening today, but now it's just happening on a much bigger scale.
And so the person at the center of that is going to be the DJ, so they just become a bigger star.
It's a little bit like The Wizard of Oz, you know, like that pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Like everyone gives the DJ so much credit, and when I'm DJing, I don't really do that much. You know, I play other people's records, I jump around a little bit, but like, honestly, and I'm not just being self-deprecating, like when I'm DJing, I'm the least important person there. But somehow, because the lights are on you, everyone gives you credit.
That is fascinating. And how about when you're not on stage, you're not in the club, but you're in the studio? How do you compare the process of working on your own music versus collaborating with other artists?
I mean, I've been working on music, I'm 53, so I've been working on music for 43 years. I started playing guitar when I was 10 years old, and it's just what I love to do. I know that might sound like a cliche, but it's the truth. So I work on music if I'm being paid to work on music. I work on music if I'm not being paid. I work on music for fun, for relaxation, just simply for the love of working on music. Like even if I never release another record for the rest of my life, I'm still going to spend the rest of my life working on music.
It's just in your blood.
It seems to be. I also don't know how to do anything else.
So tell me about the creative process working with Julie.
Well, so Julie, it's funny. So I moved to LA and I had a sort of housewarming party. I moved to this crazy old house up in Beechwood Canyon, and I invited everybody I knew over to this housewarming party. I also thought it was going to be like a perfect, beautiful, glamorous LA day, and it was actually like cold and overcast. So people showed up and stood around the pool, but my friend Russell came, and he couldn't find parking, and so he parked in someone's driveway across the street from me, and this beautiful woman walks out and says, you're parking in my driveway. Russell said, he got all excited that this beautiful woman was there, and he said, oh, do you want to come to a party? And that was Julie. So Julie was my neighbor. So I met her, like we lived so close to each other that her Wi-Fi signal was stronger in my house than my Wi-Fi signal.
Stop it. This is amazing. So you started stealing her Wi-Fi, and then that leads to creative collaboration.
Yeah, and then we became friends, and we just started doing tons of creative things together. Like when I made music videos, she'd be in the music videos. When I do TV shows, she would come be on the TV show, play charity events, and it just became sort of this thing that, like, if I was doing something creative in and around LA, Julie would be involved.
So she kind of like a muse to you?
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it's gone really weird. Like did this photo series of people wearing animal masks. And Julie had a boyfriend at the time, but he was very cool with this. So I took pictures of Julie naked in my pool wearing nothing but an animal mask.
Oh my God.
So that's definitely the stranger end of the creative spectrum. It's like the two of us underwater with underwater cameras and lights, and her naked wearing a monkey mask.
Just another day in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so how did it go from her supporting what you were doing on stage in more of a backup role to then emerging as a solo artist and you collaborating with her?
It's kind of seamless, you know, and I hope that I sort of, in some small way, helped encourage her to write her own songs and do her own performances, which she'd already been doing, but Julie's very shy, and she's really not inherently comfortable sharing her music with other people, and I think I just kept trying to encourage her to, like, record your songs and put them out there and simply see what happens.
That's amazing. Who do you still want to collaborate with?
That's anybody who can sing better than I can, which is a lot of people.
Do you sing well?
I do not sing well. I sing a lot, but I don't think of myself as being a good singer. So I love working with vocalists, like people who can write lyrics in ways that I can't, people who can sing better than I can. So anybody with a wonderful voice.
Are there new artists out there now that are getting you really excited?
Well, there would be if I paid more attention to new artists, but I'm so ignorant. Like Spotify, when I first got Spotify, I was like, I'm gonna find out about new music, but then I found that all I did was listen to old music that I grew up with.
So what's on your playlist?
Everything from like old punk rock records to classical music to old blues records. I was with Chris Hardwick the other night, and we were talking about how we've become obsessed with music from the 30s and the 40s. Inexplicably. Just sort of like you're on Spotify, and you're like, oh, why not listen to the top 40 from 1936?
That's literally what you're listening to?
Sometimes, yeah.
So which names pop up on your Spotify list?
Lately, it's been a lot of like the big psychedelic artists from the 60s, like Cream, Jefferson Airplane, Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, Led Zeppelin. Like, I've been a little bit obsessed with that period. I have no idea why, because like tomorrow I might suddenly be obsessed with late 19th century classical music or ragtime. It's sort of like every week is different.
I love that Moby is listening to ragtime. That's amazing.
Sometimes.
So
yeah.
What do you do to stay fresh?
I think the only way I stay fresh is being enthusiastic about what I do. Because I gave up thoughts of being relevant a long time ago. Because, like, as we both know, middle-aged musicians desperately trying to be relevant is really sad. You know, like, it's really, really sad. Like, I don't want to do that. You know, like, whenever I see my and I don't want to name names because I don't need more enemies, but like when I see middle-aged musicians like making that huge effort to like clutch the last little bits of relevance, it just makes me really uncomfortable.
So then what's the answer? What's the key?
The answer is, look at Leonard Cohen, look at Neil Young, look at the people, look at Johnny Cash, look at the people who aged honestly. You know, like just let yourself get older. You know, like the world doesn't need another public figure pretending that the human condition doesn't apply to them. You know, pretending that they're not aging, pretending that they're not battling, you know, the confusion that comes with getting older.
But does that mean that your art form has to change?
No, it just means, and also, I mean, in this world, like no one buys records, as you know. And I sort of refuse to tour. And it makes me uncomfortable promoting records. So I make records, I put them out there, and then I just sort of wait and see what happens. And if nothing happens, that's perfectly fine, because that's the world in which we live.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
You've been doing the vegan thing for so many years, even before it was cool. What made you first want to be a vegan?
Well, I've been a vegan now for 31 years. And I became vegan, and I grew up like most people, like eating a really cliched, like suburban diet. Like when I was growing up, I loved hot dogs, hamburgers, pepperoni pizza, milkshakes, and I could never have imagined becoming a vegan. And then when I was around 19 years old, I was petting a rescue cat that my mom and I had, and all of a sudden I realized, like, I love this rescue cat, and by extension, I love all animals. You know, this rescue cat has 2 eyes and a central nervous system and a rich emotional life, as do all animals. And that was 85, and sometime in the 80s. So I've been a vegan pretty much ever since then. Just simply that I love animals. I mean, it's nice that it also has like health benefits, environmental benefits, but mainly at the core of my veganism is simply a love for animals.
So how does it make you feel now seeing veganism becoming so mainstream, and now seeing Beyonce and Jay-Z promoting veganism?
It's really encouraging, because veganism, when I became a vegan, was so weird. No one even knew how to pronounce the word vegan. Like, was it vegan? Was it vegan? Vegan? Like, so it's gone from being so obscure to now, like Cory Booker, who's an old friend of mine, when he was...
Friend of mine, I love Cory.
So when Cory was first elected to the Senate, he called me, and the first thing he said, because he's a vegan as well, the first thing he said was, what can we do to help animals?
Wow.
And I was like, to have a member of the US Senate, and also I've become friends with Adam Schiff, who's a vegan. So it's just the way in which it's spreading for so many different reasons, health, environment, love for animals, it's really inspiring and encouraging.
Well, since you've been at the forefront of the DJ thing, of the vegan thing, what should be next?
That's such a good question, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I could talk about that for the next like 8 hours. But I think what's next is, and it's such an overused word, but it's sustainability. You know, the idea, like, simply, are our actions sustainable? You know, and at present, they're not. Like, the energy we use is not sustainable. Our food supply is not sustainable. The way we approach antibiotics in healthcare is not sustainable. There's so much in our life and our culture that's not sustainable. And I think it's establishing like a new criteria for everything and saying, like, are we doing things in the smartest, most sustainable way? And I hope, because if we don't do that, we won't have much of a future.
Moby, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Really nice talking with you.
So good talking with you.